Have you ever been to a show or a concert or a sporting event? What do we do when the performers or athletes come out? We clap and cheer, right? Have you ever stood and watched a parade? Maybe a big one, like the Thanksgiving Day parade? What do we do when a great float or your favorite balloon goes by? We clap and cheer. Let's hear some cheering and clapping like that right now. That's how they welcomed Jesus when he came riding into Jerusalem on a donkey. They cheered and shouted. They threw their coats on the ground like a red carpet for a king or queen. They broke branches off the palm trees and threw them down or waved them in the air. The people were so excited and glad to see Jesus, they couldn't control themselves. But how long did that enthusiasm last? We're going to take you on a special journey now through that last week of Jesus' life and see.
Hello, children. Come and sit down at the table. I want to tell you about something very special that happened in my house. In this very room, it all started a few days before Passover, which we celebrate every year. On that day, my husband was standing outside our home when he was approached by two men, strangers to us. All they said was, "The teacher says he wants to celebrate the Passover at your house with his disciples." We knew right away who the teacher was, for we had heard him preach in the countryside. I was so excited that Jesus had chosen my house to eat the Passover meal at. I rushed around the rest of the day cleaning and getting things in order. I wanted everything to be just right. I had the wash bowl and towels ready for the men to wash their feet when they came in the front from the dusty streets. What surprised me was that instead of having one of the servants wash their guests' feet, Jesus himself got down on his hands and knees and washed each of the disciples' feet. When he was finished, he said to them, "I have just given you an example to follow. You must be willing to serve others just as I did for you." Then he did something really surprising. We had all the Passover food ready on the table: wine, unleavened bread, herbs, and so on. Jesus took a piece of bread, but instead of the usual blessing, he said, "This is my body. I give it for you. Every time you eat it, remember me." Then he took the cup of wine and said, "This is my blood. I bleed for you. This is God's new promise to you. Remember me when you drink it." I don't know if the disciples really understood what he was saying. I know I didn't at the time. Come, let's share this bread and juice as Jesus told us to at the Last Supper, and let's remember Jesus.
My name is Judith. Some of you may have heard of me. Every time my name is mentioned, people frown or shake their heads or get angry. They say it's all my fault Jesus was killed, and they're right. How could I have done it? I was one of Jesus' followers. I was his friend. I believe that he was the great leader of people had been waiting for. As I followed and listened to him, I realized that he wasn't at all what I expected. I didn't really understand him. I thought he wanted to be a king here on earth, but he was talking about a kingdom in heaven. I began to feel angry and disappointed in him. The leaders of our people didn't understand him either. They were afraid of Jesus and the things he said, and they wanted to get rid of him. I had heard about their plans and knew that they could use my help. I went to the leaders and offered to make it easy for them to get to Jesus. I just needed to keep my eyes open and wait for a time to turn him in. The time finally came on Thursday night when he went to a garden to pray after supper. I brought the soldiers along with me and told them, the man I kiss is the one you should arrest. Then I walked straight to Jesus, looked him in the eyes, and kissed him. After that, the soldiers dragged him off. I haven't seen him since. That's my story. I was well paid for my help. The leaders gave me 30 pieces of silver for helping them get Jesus. Back then, the money was so important. When I was given the 30 coins, I thought I was a rich man. Now I see this money and I can't stand to touch it. I can't believe I thought money was more important than Jesus.
Shh, he's praying. He needs time alone with his Father. I'm sorry, my name is Peter. I was just remembering that night, after we ate the Passover meal together, he went out to the garden and told us to come along. He had said some really strange things at supper. He even accused me of denying him. I didn't understand why he said that. I would never deny him. I wanted to reach out and help him somehow, but I guess the only one who could help him then was God, his Father. When we reached the garden, he asked us to stay by him while he prayed. I could hear some of his prayer. He talked about how hard it was going to be, how much it would hurt him. He was facing something that was more frightening than I could imagine. I had never seen him pray so hard before. He was crying and shaking and asked God not to make him go through it, that he didn't want to be killed. Finally, he said, I will do what you want, not what I want. Even after hearing his prayer and seeing how upset he was, the other disciples and I let him down. We had all fallen asleep under the trees while he was praying. Not once, but 3 times, he woke us up. He needed us to be there for him, and we let him down. That was the last time I spoke to him. As we were standing there, a group of soldiers, led by our own Judas, came into the garden. They grabbed Jesus and arrested him. I was so scared. I couldn't say a thing, but I followed behind the crowd to see what would happen to him. I didn't like what I saw.
I am Pilate, the governor of this region. I don't understand why everyone is blaming me. I tried my best to free Jesus, but the people would not allow it. I had no other choice. I wish the Jewish leaders had taken care of their own business without getting me involved, but they brought Jesus here to me after they held their own trial. I asked them what charges they had against Jesus, but they said that he was a criminal and deserved to die, that he claimed to be a king. I questioned Jesus for a long time. I asked if he was the king of all of the Jews. All he said was, my kingdom is not of this world, and I came to the world to bring the truth. Ha, truth. Who really knows what truth is, other than that he was silent and wouldn't say a word in his defense. Still, I couldn't find no reason to put Jesus to death, but the crowd kept yelling to kill him. I thought that they would be satisfied if I let Jesus be whipped and beaten. The soldiers did a very thorough job of that, even laughing and spitting on him, but the people weren't satisfied. I tried to make a deal with them. There's a Jewish custom that says Passover time I can let one prisoner go free. I asked if I should release Jesus, but to my horror, they asked for Barabbas to be let go and for Jesus to die. They kept yelling louder and louder. I couldn't take it anymore. I let them have their way before a riot broke out. Jesus was taken to be crucified. So now I'm washing my hands of this whole thing. I'm not responsible for his death. It's not my problem.
I'd like to ask you to pray for me, for peace of mind. You see, I haven't been able to sleep much without thinking of the nails. I guess I'd better explain myself. I'm like what you might call a blacksmith, in that I make things out of metal. This has always been a good job, and one that has kept me busy. I got the government contract for all the nails that they use to crucify people. I was pretty proud of my work until I went to Calvary to see the crucifixion myself. When they brought Jesus out from Pilate's court and I got my first look at him, and he was so weak he could barely stand. Then they dragged him out the heavy cross and told him to carry it all the way up the hill. As he got closer to me, I could see that he was bleeding, and all black and blue where they had beat him. When they fell down and could not go up any further, the soldiers pulled a man out of the crowd and made him carry him the rest of the way. At the top of the hill were robbers and killers who were put to death. They laid Jesus down on the Christ, using the very nails I had so proudly made. They nailed him into it. They lifted the cross upright and placed it in a hole. Jesus hung like a criminal, but I knew just by looking at him that he did not deserve this. I saw his face, and I'll never forget the pain I saw. The thing that really bothered me was his eyes. They were clear and so full of love, even for the people that had done this to him. I heard him pray, "Father, forgive them. They don't know what they are doing." It was then that I realized he was doing this all for us. We should have been punished for our sinful ways, but let himself be punished instead of us, because he loves us so much.
My name is Mary. I was a follower of Jesus too. He was the best friend I ever had, even when I did things that were wrong. Many of the other believers ran away when Jesus was arrested, but I just couldn't. I was there the whole time he was on the cross, and I was there when he died. After Jesus died, another of his disciples named Joseph went to Pilate, and he got the body down so we could bury him. It was in a cave on the side of a rocky hill. I watched while they took him down from the cross. I helped him wrap Jesus' body in bands of cloth, and along with special spices called myrrh. We laid him down inside the tomb and rolled a great heavy stone in front of the opening so no one could get in. Even after Jesus was dead, Pilate was still afraid, so he posted guards in front of the tomb. After that, there was no more that I could do, so I went home. Everything is so quiet now. I'm not sure where most of his disciples are. Everyone is so scared by what happened. But I miss Jesus so much. First thing in the morning, I think I'll go. I have to at least say goodbye.
So is that the end of the story? No. To find out the rest, we hope to see you on Easter.